The movie kicks off on Christmas Eve with young Jules waking up, alarmed by strange noises coming from the roof. She races to her parents, Jenny and Mark, who assume she's just sleepwalking and gently guide her back to bed. Jenny urges her to keep her voice down so they don't wake up her little brother, Timmy. But Jules insists she heard footsteps, convinced Santa is already here. To soothe her, Jenny plays along, explaining that sometimes Santa swings by early to check chimneys and prep for the big night. She even promises to leave cookies and milk out for Santa and his reindeer before bed. As Jenny heads to the kitchen, she hears an odd noise and notices the front door unlocked. Shaking it off, she heads back to her room, asking Mark to handle the cookies and milk. Meanwhile, Jules wakes again to the sound of footsteps. Quietly sneaking out of bed, she catches a glimpse of Santa by the Christmas tree. But instead of pulling out presents, he pulls out an axe and strides towards her brother's room. Frozen in terror, Jules watches in silence as Santa savagely attacks Timmy, and then heads to her parents' room. Her mom, Jenny, jolts awake covered in blood as she turns. She is scared to find Mark dead. She scrambles to check on the kids and is horrified to find Timmy in pieces. Before she can react, the twisted Santa is on her trail. Jenny fights to escape, but he strikes her down, his axe landing its final blow in a brutal finish. Calm and unfazed, this deranged Santa, Art the Clown, returns to enjoy the cookies and milk, even washing up after himself. Just as he's about to leave, a faint noise catches his attention. He finds Jules hiding in a cupboard, terrified. Suddenly, the movie shifts back 5 years earlier. An officer arrives at a crime scene and finds a headless corpse. But just as he starts to inspect the scene, strange sounds echo from the basement. When he investigates, the corpse springs to life and viciously attacks, taking him down. The scene cuts to a guard at a psych ward who hears strange noises coming from one of the cells. Rushing to check, he calls for backup, only to find himself face to face with Victoria, a sinister serial killer. She attacks him just as Art the Clown joins in, and the two take the guard down. Afterward, they hop on a train, where a friendly commuter mistakes them for cosplayers and even helps Art get a fresh outfit. Eventually, they make it to their hideout, where Victoria, tormented by her reflection, shatters the mirror and cuts herself, lying down in the bathtub as Art sits, watching. Back in the present, Uncle Greg picks up his niece, Sienna, from the mental hospital. The two chat about her cousin, Gabby, whom Sienna hasn't seen in 5 years. When they arrive home, Gabby is thrilled to see Sienna and insists she help with cookie making. And Jess soon arrives, and Sienna greets her with a warm hug. Gabby leads Sienna to her room, perfectly decorated, and hands her a card that lovingly describes her as a sister and mentions their dream trip to the moon, a memory that brings joy to both. Elsewhere, demolition workers Dennis and Jackson arrive at an abandoned building. Jackson, always the joker, tries to spook Dennis with a story about a serial killer who buried 12 kids there. Dennis freezes until Jackson laughs, admitting he made it up. Meanwhile, Sienna is unpacking in her room when she spots a photo of herself with her father, Michael, a renowned comic artist. She's pulled into a memory of young Sienna asking her dad to create a woman superhero stronger than any other. Just as she leaves, Michael calls her back, and the scene snaps to the present. Gabby sneaks a peek at Sienna's diary, reading aloud a few lines before Sienna snaps, firmly telling her to stay out of it. Meanwhile, Jackson and Dennis are still exploring the eerie building when they each stumble upon something horrifying: Art the Clown and Victoria's lifeless bodies. Though terrified, they creep closer to inspect. Jackson calls Dennis over as he examines Victoria's body, only for her to suddenly spring to life and stab him in the neck. Dennis, just as unlucky, is busy with Art, who wakes up and attacks, pinning him to the floor. Victoria watches as Art mercilessly finishes Dennis off. At the same time, Sienna is having lunch with her aunt's family when she finds out that Gabby has been a snoop since she was 8, even rewrapping gifts to pretend she didn't peek. Everyone laughs, but Sienna's joy is short-lived. She suddenly hallucinates, seeing her dead friend Brooke, who blames her and her brother Jonathan for their deaths. Brooke tries to force Sienna to pass the rice, and Sienna's family can't help but notice her distress. She leaves the table, rattled and shaken. Elsewhere, Jonathan returns to his room to find his roommate Cole hanging out with his girlfriend, Mia. Mia, a fan of Jonathan's, introduces herself and tries to persuade him to join her podcast, saying everyone would love to hear about his showdown with Art the Clown. Jonathan, uncomfortable, excuses himself when he gets a call from Sienna. She lets him know she's at Aunt Jess's and wants to see him soon, but Jonathan lies about going to a school party. Sienna, sensing something's wrong, still asks him to visit, but he brushes it off. After the call, Gabby checks on Sienna, who, still feeling unwell, asks Gabby if she can paint her. Back at the hideout, Art and Victoria are busy plotting. Art, always full of twisted ideas, crafts a new weapon using a nitrogen gas cylinder and tests it on a rat, hinting at the carnage to come. Sienna gives Gabby a fun makeover, adding makeup that Gabby absolutely loves. Admiring herself, Gabby notices some marks on Sienna's face and asks about them. Sienna shrugs it off, explaining that she got them in a fight, and yes, she won. The scene cuts to a bar where Santa is having a great time with his friends, Smokey, Eddie, and a couple of women. When the ladies leave, Art the Clown spots Santa, and pretending to be a fan, rushes over to join their group. Santa, amused, buys him a drink. But Art spits the drink right back in Santa's face, leaving him disgusted. Until things get worse, Art pees on Santa. Eddie shoves him away, but Art's not backing off. Enraged, Eddie moves to threaten him, but Art suddenly pulls out a gun, shooting Eddie and then blowing Smokey's head open. Santa, terrified, pleads for his life, but Art ties him to a chair, using his nitrogen tank to freeze Santa's head and then smashing it with a small hammer. Meanwhile, Jess talks with Greg about Sienna and Gabby's upcoming shopping trip. Greg worries about Sienna's recent episode, but Jess insists on giving her a chance, promising to keep an eye out. Later, Sienna writes in her diary about Brooke's ghostly visit, then reads a letter from Jonathan, who warns her that true evil chooses the most twisted body to enter their world. He urges her to destroy this dark force, reminding her that while she's the counter to this evil, the evil is already aware of her. The next day, Sienna and Gabby are at the mall. Sienna picks out a black shirt she thinks Jonathan will like, but Gabby teases her that Jonathan's tastes have changed. When Gabby steps away for a moment, she's shocked to spot Art dressed as Santa. She freezes, but Gabby snaps her back to reality. Later, Sienna finally meets up with Jonathan, who's confused about why she wanted to talk. Just as they start catching up, Jonathan's roommate, Cole, appears and introduces himself. Just then, Mia shows up and corners Sienna about her podcast, mentioning how her fans are eager to hear how she and Jonathan are handling everything after all these years. This hits a nerve for Sienna, who snaps, revealing that she's been haunted by visions of her dead friends and family for 5 years straight. She calls Mia a leech, leaving her embarrassed and speechless. Jonathan pulls Sienna aside, and she tells him she's seen Art the Clown again. Jonathan tries to dismiss it, but Sienna urges him to come with her to the church, saying they need each other to face this evil. Jonathan, wanting to leave the past behind, resists, but she pulls out his letter, the one where he wrote about how evil needs a human vessel to enter the world, and how Sienna was meant to counter it. She assures him he wasn't crazy, explaining that the force which chose them has been preparing them for this very moment. Then, it hits her, Victoria Hayes, the notorious serial killer, is now the vessel for this evil. Jonathan suggests going to the police or even telling Jess and Greg, but Sienna knows they'd never believe it. Later, Sienna heads home and, while hiding a present, gets caught by Gabby, who notices her hands are dirty. Sienna quickly sends Gabby off to her room, washing her hands with a strange look in her eyes. She joins Jess in the kitchen, where they're making cookies, and Jess mentions that she's happy Jonathan is attending a campus party. Gabby then offers Sienna a cookie but remembers that Sienna doesn't like cereal. Suspicious, Sienna leads Gabby to her room, reminding her she never told her that. When Sienna presses, Gabby admits to reading her journal, angering Sienna. She barely controls her temper and warns Gabby to keep everything she read a secret. Meanwhile, Art the Clown sneaks into Jonathan's dorm, overhearing Cole and Mia talking. Mia is thrilled at the thought of interviewing Jonathan, saying she's desperate to know what it's like to have been in the presence of Art and to feel his dark aura. Listening in, Art smiles, more than willing to make her wish come true. While Sienna is playing with Gabby, she notices Greg looking stressed and catches the news about a blast at the mall she just visited. Sienna panics, admitting she saw Art the Clown there but didn't tell anyone, thinking they wouldn't believe her. She insists on calling Jonathan, and as Greg dials, she takes the phone, urgently warning Jonathan of the danger. She begs him to come to Jess's house and tells him she now has the Terrifier sword. As Greg gets ready to leave, Jess says she's already put Sienna to bed and asks him to hurry back. She then comforts Gabby, reassuring her that Sienna will be okay and that nothing bad will happen. Meanwhile, at Jonathan's dorm, Mia and Cole are goofing around in the shower when Art the Clown strikes. Cole tries to escape as Art goes after Mia, fulfilling her twisted wish of experiencing the clown's presence. Then Art turns his chainsaw on Cole, dividing him in two. After the carnage, Greg arrives to pick up Jonathan, but Jonathan asks for a little more time. Meanwhile, as Sienna sleeps, she dreams of her father drawing a powerful female superhero who can defeat 10 of the strongest male heroes. Just as he hands her the sketch, Sienna's dream shifts into terrifying flashbacks of all the horrific deaths of her friends and family. She then has a vision of an angel controlling a dark force. Jolting awake, she overhears Jess and Greg whispering, worried that Sienna's a danger to them and planning to smother her in her sleep. Startled, she tries to scare them off but is horrified to see Victoria and Art standing right in front of her. She rushes to escape, but Art catches her and knocks her out. When Sienna opens her eyes, she finds Jess tied to a chair while Victoria is rummaging through their Christmas presents. Victoria peels the tape off Jess's mouth, telling her not to scream. Jess, terrified, asks where her daughter is, and Art pulls back a cloth to reveal a cage. Both Jess and Sienna freeze in horror, seeing a severed head inside. Victoria turns to Jess, ready to end her, as Jess makes a final plea to Sienna. Make them suffer. Art grabs a tube and forces it down Jess's throat. Then Victoria cruelly slashes her throat. Victoria then approaches Sienna, declaring she plans to take over her body. She grins, saying she has a surprise for her, and Art brings in Gabby, alive but terrified. Then Art holds up the severed head from the cage, putting glasses on it to reveal it's Jonathan's head. Victoria taunts her, saying she's lost everything she loves, and that there's no God or hope left. She tries to take control of Sienna's body, but Sienna resists with all her strength. Sensing Sienna's determination to protect Gabby, Victoria tells Art to kill her. Thinking fast, Gabby makes a final request, asking Sienna to open her present before she dies. Victoria and Art grant her wish, but Art badly injures Sienna's hands as she reaches for it. Somehow, Sienna manages to tear open the gift, revealing her powerful sword inside. With renewed strength, Sienna attacks Art, saving Gabby and then fighting Victoria, eventually managing to behead her. Just as she's catching her breath, Art lunges at her, but Sienna stands her ground. Dodging his attacks, she finally overpowers him. As she holds him, waiting for his end, Victoria's blood suddenly opens a portal to hell beneath them. Gabby slips, barely managing to cling to the edge. Sienna faces a gut-wrenching choice: kill Art or save Gabby. She rushes to help Gabby, but despite her best efforts, she can't hold on, and Gabby falls. As the portal closes, Sienna collapses, mourning the loss of Gabby. But then she notices something strange: her scars have healed. She makes a vow to Gabby, promising to find and save her one day. Meanwhile, Art is seen at a bus stop. Bloodied and dazed, he boards a bus, his sinister grin returning as he scares a woman who stares at him in horror. And with that chilling final moment, the movie ends.